The snow fell softly that December evening, each flake drifting down like a whispered prayer. Margaret Hayes sat on the cold bench outside the bus station, her thin dress doing little against the bitter wind. At 22, she should have been somewhere warm, somewhere safe. Instead, she clutched a paper cup of cooling coffee and watched her breath form small clouds in the freezing air. Her worn burgundy travel bag sat beside her on the bench, everything she owned packed inside. The tan shawl wrapped around her shoulders had been her grandmother's. Margaret pulled it tighter, remembering warmer days, easier times. She'd been waiting 3 hours now. The last bus had already gone, and the next wouldn't arrive until morning. The station attendant had locked up and gone home. Through the glass windows behind her, the empty waiting room glowed with fluorescent light, but the doors were sealed tight. Margaret hadn't eaten since yesterday. The coffee had cost her last $2. She'd left her mother's house after one argument too many, too proud to go back, too scared to stay. Now she sat in the snow, wondering if pride was worth freezing for. Across the parking lot, Daniel Morrison was loading his 3 children into his black SUV. His wife had passed away 8 months ago, and the holidays felt like walking through deep water. Everything was harder now, heavier. But the kids needed him to be strong, to keep going, to make Christmas feel like Christmas. 7-year-old Nathan climbed into his seat without being asked. 5-year-old Emma chatted about the gingerbread house they'd seen at the bakery, and little Thomas, just 4 years old, pressed his face against the window, his yellow jacket bright against the dark interior. Daniel was buckling Thomas, and when the boy pointed toward the bus stop, "Daddy, why is that lady sitting in the snow?" Daniel glanced over. Through the falling snow, he could see her, a young woman, alone, hunched against the cold. Something in his chest tightened. "Maybe she's waiting for someone, buddy," he said quietly. But as he closed the car door and walked around to the driver's side, he couldn't stop looking. She wasn't moving, just sitting there, holding that cup, staring at nothing. He'd driven past people before, told himself they'd be fine, that someone else would help. But tonight, something was different. Maybe it was the holidays. Maybe it was remembering how lost he'd felt these past months. How the smallest kindness from a stranger could mean everything. Daniel opened his door but didn't get in. He stood there in the snow, one hand on the roof of the car, thinking about his wife. Catherine would have already been walking over there. She never hesitated when someone needed help. "Stay here for just a minute," he told the children. His dress shoes crunched across the snowy pavement. As he got closer, he could see the girl was younger than he'd thought. She looked up as he approached, her blue eyes wary, cautious. She had the look of someone who'd learned not to trust too easily. "Excuse me," Daniel said gently. "I don't mean to intrude, but are you waiting for someone?" Margaret studied him. Tall, kind face, expensive coat. 3 small faces pressed against the car windows behind him, watching. She relaxed slightly. "Waiting for the morning bus," she said. Her voice was quiet but steady. "That's not until 6 a.m., Daniel said. "You're planning to wait out here all night?" She shrugged, trying to look braver than she felt. "I've got my coat." Daniel glanced at the thin jacket, the summer dress beneath it. The temperature was dropping fast. This girl wouldn't make it until morning, not dressed like that. "Listen," he said carefully. "I have a guest room. It's warm, it's safe. My 3 kids are right there in the car. You can get some rest, have a hot meal, and I'll drive you to the station first thing in the morning." Margaret's eyes filled with tears before she could stop them. She looked away quickly, embarrassed. "I don't have any money," she whispered. "I'm not asking for money," Daniel said softly. "I'm just offering a warm place for the night. No strings attached." She looked at him for a long moment, searching his face. Then she looked at the children in the car. The little girl in the red jacket was waving at her. "Why would you help me?" Margaret asked. "You don't even know me." Daniel was quiet for a moment. "My wife passed away earlier this year," he said finally. "I've learned that kindness is the only thing that really matters, the only thing we leave behind that counts." Something in his voice told Margaret he was telling the truth. She nodded slowly and stood up, her legs stiff from the cold. "Thank you," she said. "I'm Margaret." "Daniel," he replied, picking up her bag. "Come on, let's get you warmed up." The children were curious but polite as Margaret climbed into the front passenger seat. Emma offered her a granola bar from her backpack. Nathan asked if she liked hot chocolate. Thomas just smiled shyly, his round face cheerful. The Morrison house was exactly what Margaret had imagined a real home should look like. Warm lights glowed in the windows. A Christmas tree sparkled in the living room. It smelled like cinnamon and pine. Daniel showed her to the guest room while the children got ready for bed. It was simple but comfortable, with a thick quilt on the bed and soft carpet underfoot. "Bathrooms across the hall," he said. "Take your time. I'll heat up some soup if you're hungry." Margaret nodded, not trusting herself to speak without crying. 20 minutes later, she sat at the kitchen table while Daniel ladled vegetable soup into a bowl. The children had been tucked in, though she could hear them still whispering and giggling upstairs. "They're excited," Daniel said with a small smile. "We don't usually have company." "I'm sorry for the intrusion," Margaret said. "You're not an intrusion." Daniel sat down across from her with his own bowl. "Can I ask where you were headed?" "My aunt's place, 2 states over. I just needed to get away from home for a while." She stirred her soup. "Things got complicated." Daniel nodded. "Family can be complicated." They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the world in white. "Your children are beautiful," Margaret said. "They seem happy." "They're resilient," Daniel said quietly. "Stronger than I am some days." He paused. "Their mother would have brought you home before I even thought of it. She had a gift for seeing when people needed help." "She sounds like she was special." "She was." Daniel smiled, sad but genuine. "She taught me that we're all connected, that helping someone else is really just helping ourselves remember what it means to be human." Margaret felt something shift inside her chest. She'd been so angry for so long, angry at her mother, angry at the world, angry at how hard everything had become. But sitting here in this warm kitchen with this grieving man who'd still chosen kindness, she felt some of that anger begin to melt. "I ran away," she admitted suddenly. "From my mom's house. We fought, and I just left." Daniel listened without judgment. "She probably thinks I'm being dramatic," Margaret continued. "Maybe I am. But I felt so trapped there, so small, like nothing I did would ever be good enough." "Being young is hard," Daniel said gently. "Figuring out who you are, where you fit, it takes time, and sometimes we need distance to see clearly." "Do you think I should go back?" "I think," Daniel said carefully, "that you should do what feels right for you. But I also think that most people are doing the best they can, even when it doesn't look like it, even when they mess it up." Margaret thought about her mother, working double shifts at the hospital, exhausted and short-tempered, always worried about money, about the future, about Margaret making the same mistakes she had. "She just wanted me to be safe," Margaret said quietly. "But it felt like she didn't trust me." "Maybe," Daniel said, "she was scared." Parents get scared. We see all the ways the world can hurt our children, and we try so hard to protect them that sometimes we hold on too tight. He stood and refilled her water glass. "You don't have to decide anything tonight. Just rest. Tomorrow will be clearer." That night, Margaret lay in the guest bed under the warm quilt and cried, not from sadness, exactly, but from relief, from the unexpected grace of being seen, being helped, being treated like she mattered. In the morning, Daniel made pancakes while the children told Margaret about their school and their friends and their favorite Christmas movies. Emma showed her a drawing she'd made. Nathan taught her the secret handshake he'd invented. Thomas sat on her lap and played with her hair. After breakfast, Margaret helped wash the dishes. Daniel was checking his phone when she worked up the courage to speak. "Daniel," she said quietly, "would you mind if I used your phone? I think I need to call my mom." He handed it to her without hesitation. "Take your time. I'll be in the living room with the kids." Margaret's hands shook as she dialed. Her mother answered on the second ring. "Mom," Margaret said. "It's me." There was a sharp intake of breath. "Margaret, where are you?" "I've been worried sick." "I know." "I'm sorry." "I'm safe. I just needed to tell you that." She paused. "And to say I'm sorry for leaving like that." Her mother was crying now. "No, baby. I'm sorry. I've been too hard on you. I just worry so much, and I don't know how to stop." "I know," Margaret said softly. "I understand now. I think I'm ready to come home. If you want me there, of course I want you here. This is your home. It'll always be your home." They talked for 20 minutes. Really talked, maybe for the first time in years. When Margaret finally hung up, she felt lighter than she had in months. Daniel drove her to the bus station. The children buckled in the back, singing Christmas carols. When they arrived, Margaret turned to him before getting out. "Thank you," she said. "I don't just mean for the room and the food. I mean for reminding me that people can be good, that I can be good." Danielle smiled. "You were always good, Margaret. Sometimes we just need someone to remind us." She hugged each of the children, promised to remember them, then shouldered her bag and walked toward the station entrance. Daniel watched her go, feeling his wife's presence beside him like she'd never left. Catherine would have been proud. He'd done the right thing. As Margaret boarded her bus, she looked back and waved. Daniel and the children waved back. The snow had stopped, and weak winter sunlight broke through the clouds, making everything sparkle. She didn't know what would happen when she got home, whether things with her mother would be easy or if they'd have to learn how to talk to each other all over again. But for the first time in a long time, she felt hope. Sometimes that's all we need: a warm meal, a safe place to rest, and someone to remind us that we're not alone, that kindness still exists, that tomorrow can be different than today. The bus pulled away from the station, carrying Margaret toward home, toward a second chance, toward whatever came next. And in his SUV, driving his children toward their own day, Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in months: peace, purpose, the sense that his wife's love lived on, not in grief, but in the simple act of reaching out to someone who needed help. The snow had melted slightly on the roads, making them easier to travel. Behind them, the bus station grew smaller in the rearview mirror. But the warmth of what had passed between strangers remained, proof that even in the coldest winters, grace can find us. All we have to do is be brave enough to accept it, and kind enough to pass it on.